All right, my story this morning is about ants. How many of you know what an ant is? How many of you have played with ants before? That's my story. So when I was younger, I lived in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. It's the other side of the United States from here. And I played with the little black ants. We're gonna have black ants. And the little black ants are a lot different than the ants that I played with in California when I went to visit my uncle. Here's a little black ant there for you. See that black ant? You've probably seen them before, not to be confused with termites. And number two, if we can go to number two, I'm going to show you the different types of ants, and there's a reason for the different types of ants. See that ant right there? See its mouth? What does that mouth look like it could do? That's right. It's a worker ant. And that's what it does. It picks up stuff. Have you seen them carry leaves? Yeah? Can we go to 3?
I heard that they can pick up any crumb that's bigger than them.
That's right. Ants can pick up things almost 10 times their own weight and carry it. They're good workers, aren't they? See that little ant right there? That's the regular worker ant. It does look dangerous, doesn't it? But it does work. I found out that those worker ants live to 1 to 3 years. I know, they live for a long time for a little creature like that. That right there is the male ant. The male ant lives for a few weeks. It doesn't live very long. It doesn't get fed very well. And what it does is it impregnates the queen ant and then it dies. It has a very short lifespan. And that's why you see them flying through and you see the little ants. Have you seen the little ants with the wings like that fly around? That's usually the male ants. Yes, Lily?
I don't remember which one a male is.
We just had a picture of it. Can we go back to the male ant? Can you see, you'll be able to see it up there? See it up there? And on the sides? They have the wings. They're so beautiful and they're so small. Yes?
How do they use them?
They use their wings to fly away. So when they're done impregnating the queen ant, they fly away. And they go and they actually implode. So they die from inside out. They don't have a very long lifespan. And they don't really do a lot besides that right there. Can we go to the next one? Right there is an army ant or a soldier ant. You see how its mouth is a little bit different?
It kind of looks like it can go like this.
Yeah, and that's where my story is going to go to. But I want to show you a few more ants. I'll go to another ant. That right there is the queen ant. See how big she is?
Whoa.
Isn't she really big? Yes? What is it, Jacob?
It's kind of like the bee.
It's kind of like what?
The bee family.
Yeah, kind of like the bee family.
Only they're different kinds and they fly.
That's right. All of them fly in the bee family, but in the ant family, there's only one that flies, and that was the male, and he doesn't live for very long. So our queen that's there can live for 30 years in some of these families, yeah. One little queen that gets impregnated by the male can live for 30 years. And guess what? Everybody in the colony works for that queen. Isn't that amazing? All right, now I'm going to go to my story because I'm I've told you about the little ants and what they do like. So when I lived in Portland, Oregon, I could play with the ant hills. And I was about 5, 6 years old. Yes?
Once when we were out at a national park, there was tons of red ants and they kept biting us.
That's exactly where I'm going with my story. What is it?
One time, when my sister, when Zoe touched some of them, she started crying because the ants bit.
That's exactly where I'm going with my story. So I was so used to the little black ants. I would play with the little black ants. I'd knock over their heel, and then I would lay in the pile and let them crawl all over me. And it felt so weird. Have any of you done that?
No.
It feels so weird to have all these little guys crawling all over you. But I can tell you this for my story. When I went down to California and I visited my uncle, my great uncle, I did the same thing with red ants. And I didn't know that there was fire ants there. And fire ants, as you'll see in the picture coming up, they have little stingers on them. And the little worker ants have little stingers on them. And they don't crawl over you, they sting you. And I got so stung by all these little ants. And I thought I was gonna have so much fun. See, there's the little red ant. See how their mouth is different? Now that right there is still a worker ant. That's a drone ant. If we could go to the next slide. That right there is the male red ant. See how they still look different? And the next slide. There's a worker one again. See how they're picked? Their little mouths though they use. And can we go one more slide? See that little stinger on the back of that ant? Can you see it up there? That little stinger is what I got exposed to multiple times after I kicked over the top of the thing, and then I lay down in the anthill, and I thought I was gonna have so much fun with the little ants crawling over me. I did not have so much fun. I ended up hurting really bad. But I'll tell you why I always did what I did. You know, ants have little eggs in there, right? That's what the queen's laying. The big lady that was back there earlier, she lays eggs. And the little other ants feed those eggs. And when you knock over the pile, you watch the ants and they scramble to get the eggs back inside the house in order to get them back in there, to take them back into the little place and to make little homes for them again. And I love watching that because it was so cool just to watch the ants work, and they work so hard. And those little red ants kind of got me. They worked really hard on me, trying to get me away from their home. And I want to tell you about this story because when we go about our lives, sometimes we get used to doing the same thing over and over again. Like what I did with the little ants, with the black ants, and knocking over their home. And that wasn't very nice to the ants, was it? Because I made them have to work so hard, and they had to protect their little eggs, their babies. And I was 5, 6 years old, much, close to your guys' age. I didn't really think about the fact that that made them work so hard, and that wasn't very nice to them. And they kind of taught me a lesson when I was down in California. What lesson do you think they taught me?
Not to knock over their homes.
Exactly. Not to knock over their homes and not to tear up their home. What?
Like to treat others how you would want to be treated.
Exactly, and that's the point of what I'm saying this whole thing for, to treat others the way that you would want to be treated. The ants told me that I should treat them with the same kindness and respect that I would want to be treated with. I love looking at them and watching them. I love watching them carry things, but maybe I shouldn't destroy their home. Maybe I should just look at them. And sometimes we have the same opportunities in our lives. We need to just look at things. Can you go to the next picture? That is a warrior red ant. Doesn't that look really mean? I got a few of those stuck in my skin. It didn't feel very good. And that's the reason why I still remember this lesson. So sometimes we have things happen to us, and they cause us to have memories. And these memories cause us to remember things like being nice to others. So that stuck with me for all my life. I've learned you have to be kind to others. And I didn't even have to be taught that by a person. I got taught that by God's little ants. Can we go next picture? There's a warrior ant with the regular ants. I wanted you guys to have an idea of the size difference. You see how big that ant is that's there? The real big one? That's one of the warrior ants. And the rest are called drone ants or worker ants. Can we go to the next one? So this right here is called a lion ant. And I brought this one in here because sometimes things that we call ants aren't really ants. Does that look like an ant? It doesn't really, does it? But they call it a lion ant. And what it becomes is something that looks like a dragonfly. It's a very beautiful creature, but it's not an ant. What these lion ants do is they eat ants. They make the little holes, and the little ant goes down in it, and then they eat the ant. So another thing I wanted you to learn from nature is that sometimes things that we call things are not what they really appear to be. Yes?
I didn't know there were two ants. I thought there was only one.
There is so many ants. Yeah, so there's the worker ant, the drone ant, the army or the soldier ant, the male ant, the queen ant. There's a lot of ants out there. And guess what? The Bible talks about ants. In Proverbs 6:6, it says, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest." So who are those ants gathering for? Yes, sir? Yes, they're gathering for the queen and the babies that haven't come yet. And they're gathering for their home. Then there's another one that's in Proverbs 30. It says, "There be four things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer." And that's Proverbs 30, 24 through 25. So what does that tell us about ants that we should do? What is it? We should be strong. And I'm going to bring this to a spiritual thing that we can think about. We should be strong in our faith. We should be strong in what we know. And we should tell others about it. And we should also prepare for the time later. Like what Pastor Peter was talking about in the sermon and what you're going to hear in the sermon. We should prepare what we learn today for later, that we'll be ready for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. The biggest thing I want you to take away is that we should be nice to each other, right? Just like I was not with the ants, because sometimes they can teach you a lesson that hurts. Thank you for coming up here and learning about ants today. You can go back to your seats now.